Friday, and that means we're talking firearms on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. And that means we have Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, who you just heard about, and Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn in studio with us. First of all, welcome back, gentlemen.
It's good to be here.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
absolutely.
we're headed for a really hot stretch of weather over the next week. Great way to relax would be to go out in the breeze in the desert and do a little target shooting.
Well, that'd be a nice time. Do it early when it's a little cooler though.
Yeah. By the late afternoon, it's going to be a little bit on the warm side. I wanted to start this segment off today. There was a commercial that came out a couple of days ago for the National Rifle Association. Dana Lash, who's a talk show host and apparently also very proficient with firearms, from St. Louis, I believe, right, or somewhere in the Midwest.
I think you're right. Yeah.
She did this commercial, and it has people on edge. They claim it's threatening. We're going to actually listen to it this morning, and then I think that we're going to try to figure out exactly what's supposedly so bad about it. This is about a minute long. Take a listen.
They use their media to assassinate real news. They use their schools to teach children that their president is another Hitler. They use their movie stars and singers and comedy shows and award shows to repeat their narrative over and over again. And then they use their ex-president to endorse the resistance, all to make them march, make them protest, make them scream racism and sexism and xenophobia and homophobia, to smash windows, burn cars, shut down interstates and airports, bully and terrorize the law-abiding, until the only option left is for the police to do their jobs and stop the madness. And when that happens, they'll use it as an excuse for their outrage. The only way we stop this, the only way we save our country and our freedom, is to fight this violence of lies with the clenched fist of truth. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
So did you hear anybody threatening anyone there and talking about coming and shooting them or anything like that?
No, I mean it's the one thing I get tired of, and this might be a different tack than everybody's looking at here, but I honestly get tired of the hollering and screaming from both sides of the aisle. I mean, I would just love some peace and quiet. People live their lives. If people don't like guns, okay. If people do like guns, okay. The bottom line is it's a right given to us in the Constitution. It's gun owners' responsibility to be responsible with those guns. You know, with rights come responsibilities. If you're going to own a gun, know how to use it, be smart with it, be safe with it. If you don't like guns, you don't have to own them. There's nothing out there that says you have to own a firearm, right? But don't hassle the people that choose to exercise their right. And I think both sides of the aisle agree that if there's people who are criminals that shouldn't be owning guns, yeah, let's go handle them. Let's go prosecute them. If there's people who have guns legally but are unsafe with them, let's do the same thing. But live and let live. You know, there's tons of people that to like to watch the Kardashians. Okay? That show, if I've ever seen it, would make me crazy. But what I choose to do is not watch it.
It's all about you do your thing, I'll do my thing.
Yeah. And so this kind of thing, if you boil it down, it's trying to get people to buy memberships in the National Rifle Association. You know, it's an advertising thing, but it's trying to use fear, just the same way as the other side of the aisle is trying to use fear to get people to not join. But all this fear mongering and propaganda is starting to wear pretty thin with me.
Todd.
Yeah. Forrest actually boiled it down. That's as soon as I heard it, just a few seconds in, I thought to myself, first of all, I like the commercial, but I can understand why people would be upset, and it's because we're doing the same thing. We're using the same tactics that they're using. It's the exact same thing, kind of a fear mongering thing. Great commercial, but I feel the same way as Forrest. I do my thing, you do your thing, but no, there was no talk of gun. No one should have been threatened. If you felt threatened by it, it's because you're already just riled up anyway.
Music maybe had something to do with it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's trying to promote a feeling of urgency. This is all you can do. This is what you need to do. You need to join. This is the last shot that you have to save your rights.
The people who it's trying to put fear into is the gun owners. That's who it's trying to scare. Now, if you're scared on the other side of that, then you need to go and do. If you're a guy and you're scared by that commercial, you need to go get some power tools. You go do some push-ups. You need to go do something. We all just need to get a little thicker skin because everybody is offended by freaking everything right now.
And I was going to say it's not as bad when you actually see it because you get to look at her. Uh, she is. I mean, she's pretty, and I think that's why they picked her as a spokesmodel.
Well, I
Not a
mean,
spokesperson, but
Well,
a
it was
spokesmodel.
well thought out commercial,
well,
Yeah.
she's very knowledgeable and she's
capable.
very capable. She's handy with a gun, so she would make a good spokesmodel for those reasons. Um, but the the whole thing, if someone is afraid, uh, and if you're against guns and you're like, oh, I feel threatened now. Well, you just need to toughen up a little bit. And if you're a gun owner and you're like, want to jump in, and herd a sheep, and get panicked and go running, then you need to think for yourself. I think everyone needs to do a step back and have some independent thought.
We should point out too, as well, that commercial will likely not air in the Kardashians or any program where somebody would be offended. Uh, might end up on a couple of hunting channels, and that would be or Fox, and that would be about it. We have a caller with us. It's 12 minutes after 9 o'clock, and we have 60. You're up next on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com.
Morning, Bill. I thought it was a good commercial, but I can see the one spot in there where she says the clench fist of truth. Well, the other side might take offense to it, but what she's talking about is just to grasp a hold of the truth and then run with it. It's like your guys are saying there, as long as you stick to the truth and you clench to the truth, then everything else will be okay. I mean, I argue with people all the time about guns, liberals, and my end result is if you don't like guns, don't have them in your house. Don't go shoot them. Don't go next to them. They're not going to do anything to you. They're a tool just like a hammer or a chainsaw, and both of those can do some major damage. So it's just a fear, and it's like any other fear. Unless they try to get over the fear, they're always going to have it, and there's no way of getting around it.
Yeah. Todd, he mentioned accidents that can happen. And in your course, you run a video where there's a fellow who's former military, very proficient in firearms, and he had a cleaning accident. And
Yep.
you literally see the wound to his hand, and it is nasty.
It is nasty, and he was just this stuff can happen. You just got to pay attention to what you're doing. Got to be responsible. That's the key word: responsible. Know the safety rules. Pay attention to what you're doing at all times. The gun's not going to jump up off the table and shoot someone by itself. I mean, you see these things even on Facebook where someone will set their AR-15 up by the door, or they'll lean their shotguns up against the front door, or put them on the porch, and say, "Man, I've been watching this gun for days, and it's yet to get up and go out and harm somebody." It doesn't happen like that. It's done by a person. So be responsible, be safe about it. The gun's not just going to break out of my house and go over to my neighbor's house and start shooting people. It's not the way it works.
I just remember what Forrest said the last week about the woman coming by with the rifle and not realizing it was loaded because somebody told her to drop it off at the shop. And once again, this comes down to trying to use a little common sense when you're doing this.
And I don't hold her responsible for that. Whoever told her to take that gun and handed her a loaded gun, she didn't know. She wasn't a gun person. She didn't know how to check it, and that's to be expected. If somebody handed me the keys to a backhoe and said, "Hey, dig me a big trench," I would have no idea what I was doing. It would take me a little while to figure that deal out. So I don't hold her responsible. I hold the person responsible that handed her that gun. You see it all the time in YouTube videos. People will hand someone
Yep.
a 44 Magnum to a 5-year-old kid and then laugh when they shoot it and the gun drops out of their hand and it scares them. That's just irresponsibility. I mean, that's just poor decision making. And that's the things that need to change. And we need to prosecute people who are committing crimes with guns. I mean, if we as gun owners should support that, because if we want to quit seeing people doing stupid things with firearms out there, we prosecute them. Eventually, that stuff goes away. If we go after felons who possess guns illegally, if we put super stiff penalties to people who steal firearms. Like in Chicago, they're having a record murder year. They need to go in there and and arrest some people and put people in jail, and eventually that takes traction.
Yeah, it's not about just making the laws; it's about enforcing them too.
Yeah, exactly.
The tragedies we've seen in Idaho in the last few years, the woman in Walmart and the fellow teaching in Pocatello, I think in both cases could have been prevented with a little thought
Oh
going
yeah,
in beforehand.
most all of them can. I mean, they talk about negligent discharges and accidental discharges. Unless the gun actually malfunctions because of something, something in the gun, some
Broke in the
part
gun.
failed or broke, that is an accidental discharge. Other than that, there is no accidental discharge. They're all negligent. They could have been stopped by someone. This woman, a few years back that was up in Walmart. Unfortunately, she knew how to use firearms. She'd taken a bunch of classes. She was responsible with them, I guess, according to what I read. She left her firearm in her purse next to her, I think, 3-year-old,
Hmm.
and he picked it up and he was able to get it, and bad things happened. That was negligent. She was negligent. If you carry off the body, keep it on you. Be responsible. Know where that firearm is at all times. People, another just kind of a little offshoot here, but people complain, got on her. Well, that gun was loaded. That gun was loaded. Well, if you carry a firearm for protection, it should be loaded. Okay. The fact was, is she left it next to her 3-year-old. He got it out and then shot her. It's unfortunate, but it was negligent. It could have been avoided.
And we've seen probably in the last year here in Twin Falls County in southern Idaho, there's been 4 or 5
Yeah.
accidental shootings. A
Yep.
couple of them have resulted in death.
There was one over at the Rupert shooting complex last year.
So we have to remember that if you're going to carry a firearm, if you're going to own a firearm, it's one bad decision or one lapse-minded moment that could result in death for another person. It's no different than driving your car and doing crazy stuff while you're driving. When you're driving, you should be driving.
I wanted to mention we've got about a minute before the break, but today is the full 52 weeks since we've had constitutional carry in Idaho. Tomorrow being the first anniversary, and we're going to touch on that in a little while. What amazes me is that in that 52 weeks, all of those people have predicted we'd see a lot more of this. It didn't happen, and in fact, we may have seen less of that. We're going to talk about maybe some potential theories as to why. And as it turns out, that law is the whole reason that this show came about, is because we decided, I was talking to people here in the building, that we needed to have an opportunity to talk about this and to really delve into the nature of what you brought up earlier, responsibility. And we'll delve into that before we wrap up the show here in 40 minutes, but probably in the next segment too as well. And we're at 56 right now. Temperature is ping-ponging all over this morning. Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pond, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. They'll talk too about how you can get in touch with them in a few minutes. And Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Our studio guests are joining us until 10 o'clock this morning, and of course, they're available to take your telephone calls at 736-0300. Todd Eccles is with Patriot Defense, Forrest Anderson with Washington Street Pond. Bill Colley answering the telephones this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. At 922, we're at 60. Forrest, how do people get in touch with you at Washington Street Pond?
You can stop by the store. We're 321 Washington Street. We're 3 blocks south of Addison on Washington. You can give us a call, 208-735-0012, or you can visit us on Facebook under Washington Street Pond. Message us, whatever you need. If you have a question, if you want to comp shop firearms, all of our guns carry a lifetime warranty, whether they're new or used. So stop in and check us out.
I was going to say, Forrest, you've got a class coming up. Or not Forrest, Todd.
Yeah, I got a class.
Forrest might have a class or two,
No,
too,
I
though.
don't.
Yeah, I got a class coming up on July 29th. That's the permit class for the Idaho Enhanced Concealed Carry Permit. Got plenty of room left. If you are interested in that, you got any questions, you can give me a call or text me at area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. You can find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense, and on July 15th, I have what we call I'm going to rename this, but we call it our Handguns 101 class. And you're gonna learn basic some more basic marksmanship stuff and how to draw your firearm and stuff like that. I had six openings. I filled them all, but someone had to back out, so I have one more opening. If you want in there, just get a hold of me, text me, let me know. We can get you signed up for that. It's going to be on a Saturday morning. I think we're going to start at 8 o'clock. It's 4 hours long, so you can still have the rest of your day to go out and do other stuff.
We've been a full year now with constitutional carry, and it only seems that this might have been a consequence nobody even foresaw, but a lot more people are training, even though they, quote, don't necessarily need to, right? Unquote.
Right, right.
They're taking advantage of this and saying, you know what? I'd like to know more. And that's really, I think, been, if it was unintended, it's been a good unintended consequence.
Yeah, I think more people see that they look at the law and they go, well, more people are going to be carrying. So before I wasn't going to carry, but I am. But I'm going to take a class and be responsible because maybe I've never picked up a firearm before. So I want to take classes to get all the education, the knowledge, learn everything that I can learn. And yeah, it was surprising to me, but that's the way it worked. More and more people are searching out training, and I think that's because you have more and more um, new people, newcomers to firearms, newcomers to concealed carry, and I think it's fantastic. It's been a fantastic byproduct. Obviously, there wasn't shootouts and blood in the streets like everyone predicted would happen, and that never happens. When I lived in Kansas, they introduced their concealed carry law, and they predicted blood in the streets is going to be the Wild West over in Dodge, Dodge City. That didn't happen. Nothing like that of the sorts happened.
And Forrest commented during the break that he was just talking about this last night, that all of these, again, the rhetoric, the heated rhetoric, it didn't come true.
Yeah, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear and propaganda from people that, students are going to be walking in and shooting their professors, when that law passed. And they said, it's going to be chaos in the streets. There was even some sheriffs up in Boise that were opposed to it, because they were fearful for their officers. It just hasn't panned out. And and everyday common gun owners should be applauded for a couple reasons. First of all, they've been responsible. There haven't been a lot of accidents. There's been no police officers, shot by people legally carrying a gun. The other side of that is they should be applauded because of the increase in people taking Todd's classes and seeking out training. Because now a lot of people are looking and seeing people carrying and seeing that they're responsible and say, well, maybe this is something I could do too. I always encourage everyone before you carry, make sure you have the right making ability and the right temperament to carry a gun. Because if you have a hot temper and you make poor decisions, whether can legally carry or not, maybe you shouldn't carry a gun because maybe you get all amped up and make a poor decision and then end up in jail because you drew your gun in a situation that didn't merit that. And that's a very distinct possibility. If you like go back to the story of the guy over in Burley who was being followed. So he pulled into a Wendy's parking lot. The other person got out of their car, started walking towards his. He got out of his car and pulled his gun. Well, guess who ended up going to jail? He did. Because all he had to do was drive to the police station parking lot and that deal would have been done. But he chose to stop and make a confrontation.
Even pulling up your shirt and showing someone that you're carrying.
It's brandishing.
Yeah, it's brandishing. If you're doing that in a threatening manner, or they can deem it threatening, that is brandishing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure that we're aware of our own shortcomings before we actually go down this path.
Oh, yes, you do. I mean, you can't be hot-headed.
No. My own experience when I went to the sheriff's department and had my interview is that's an opportunity for them to just talk to you one-on-one and get a feeling what type of individual you might be if you're applying for that enhanced permit.
They do, and that's what Sergeant Sugden does. I mean, he's going to get a feeling, and if you pass the background, if you get the fingerprints and you pass the background, in the state of Idaho, they have to give you the permit. So, but I guarantee you, he's kind of taking stock of the situation, kind of getting a feeling for what kind of person you are, kind of feeling you out a little bit. I guarantee you, there's some of that going on. He may be thinking, well, I'm going to kind of remember this, and we'll see what happens down the road, type of thing. So I guarantee it.
But that's the point is, if he could tell you if you say something that he wants to correct, he's going to be able to say, all right, but before you do this, this might be a good idea. This is an
Exactly.
opportunity for him to have that
Uh-huh.
input in all of this.
Yep, to kinda correct your mindset a little bit, to correct anything that you might, um, be thinking that is incorrect.
Now, it took me about 4 weeks, and I got the call, and now I just have to have the photograph taken
Don't
and
don't
move
be
on.
don't be mean mugging in your picture now today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you follow the instructions at DMV. In some states, you're not even supposed to smile. So, some states like a profile, some like a direct on, other states they don't smile or.
Well, we see what you're doing here. You're trying to grow out this beard before you go in and get your picture taken. Trying to go undercover.
We've got about a minute before the break. Uh, Also, I wanted to point out earlier we mentioned nobody's forced to carry a firearm. Now, occasionally, there was a town in Georgia a few years ago where they passed a resolution saying everyone should carry a firearm or would carry a firearm, but it was not. It was more meant tongue in cheek, but it was trying to promote the idea that they were telling people you can defend yourself. So they were sending a message out to the public that this is not a bad idea because there are sheriffs now across the country, Florida, various places, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who are saying you are the first line of defense.
Well, yeah, it's always going to take them 5-10 minutes to get there, depending on where they're located, and with budgets, money not being there in the budget, they might not have enough officers on duty that they need to. So you're going to have to take care of yourself for a little bit of time.
But know yourself. Doing that is, people also have the right not to own a gun. So know yourself. If there's people that say, you know what, I don't have the right temperament, I don't have the right
Yeah.
skill set, decision making, I don't want to carry a gun. Well, nobody should make them do that.
More guns for me.
Buy a house in the middle of a neighborhood where your neighbors all are proficient. You don't have to worry.
Exactly.
We've got a break. It's 9:30. We're at 60. Todd Eccles and of course Forrest Anderson. Forrest Anderson. I got that right that time.
Yeah.
Second time around. Yeah, I need another glass of water. Bill Colley with you too as well on KLIX. Our studio guests are talking about firearms today. We do that on Friday mornings on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Coming up on 9:34, and we're at 60. Temperature finally holding a little bit steady this morning. Forrest Anderson joins us from Washington Street Pond in Twin Falls. Todd Eccles as well from Patriot Defense. We were just having a conversation off air, and really it's something that people obviously have to keep in mind.
Yeah, we were just talking. And first of all, if you're going to concealed carry and no one knows you're concealed carrying, that's the best case scenario. I mean, if you can walk in and do your daily thing and carry responsibly, and no one that day had any idea you were carrying a gun, then that means you did it right.
As much as I hate the word, that's probably one of the better tactical type decisions you can make. Just keep that to yourself because it gives you more options.
Yep, it gives you an advantage. The second thing is now because you're carrying a gun, if you never want to use that gun, which you should never be looking for opportunities to use your concealed carry gun. You shouldn't ever be like, wow, I can't wait to use this thing to whatever. If that opportunity comes up, you want to be prepared, you want to be trained to use it. But the best thing is just avoid bad places. Don't associate with bad people. I mean, that's a good rule for life. But stay away from shady places and stay away from shady people. And the odds that you'll ever have to shoot somebody go down dramatically. My dad used to say, if you hang around a horse barn, you're going to smell like horse crap. And that carries over into everything. The people you associate with, the habits that you have directly affect the happiness and the results in your life.
I had a friend who taught self-defense in many different forms, firearms and also martial arts. And he said to me one time, he said, the old adage is, guy comes in and says, how do I stay out of bar fights? And you tell him, stay out of bars.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. I tell people in my class, you're taking this class, you're going to get the permit. When you get your permit, that doesn't mean you should go ahead and holster your weapon and go find the meanest, nastiest place at 2 o'clock in the morning to go. Okay, just because you have a firearm and you can carry concealed it should not make you feel like Superman. Okay, you're not invincible. Don't go looking for trouble. Besides, if you have to use your firearm in self-defense and it saves you or your family, that's fantastic. That's what it's there for. But don't go looking for trouble, because once you do use that firearm for self-defense, you're opening a whole other can of worms. You're going to have the legal portion. You may go to jail for a few days. You're going to could, months, years. It doesn't. I mean, it just depends. Court cases, civil cases. I mean, all kinds of stuff that you have to worry about. You could lose your job. You could cost you lots and lots of money. Just avoid those places. Don't go looking for trouble.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. Even if you use your firearm in a 100% lawful manner to defend yourself, you can still expect to go to court. You can still expect to have to hire an attorney. You can still expect lots of expenses, and you may end up in jail.
Yeah.
Despite all those things, it's still a jury of our peers. And if they see it differently than the way you saw it, you might end up in jail. So it's better just to avoid places and avoid situations and avoid people who are going to put you in a situation that you're going to have to use it.
Well, we should point out this is why you can buy insurance, but there's a bit of a crisis now in the insurance business about this.
Yeah, I'm kind of a podcast junkie, and I was listening to some people talk about NRA has brought out a new. I think I could be wrong on the name, but I think it's called Carry Guard Insurance, and they brought it out and they kind of premiered it at the NRA show this year, and they had a bunch of other companies that offer carry insurance, concealed carry insurance, like the USCCA and some of the other ones. That had booths and stuff that they've already bought, tables they'd already paid for at the NRA show. And the NRA came out and said, we're going to introduce ours so you can't come anymore. And they told them to take their stuff. They weren't welcome at the NRA show. So what that does is, if you look at it, is you got all these people who are paying memberships into the NRA. It's starting to ruffle some feathers. They're paying memberships into the NRA so the NRA can fund this concealed carry insurance and essentially almost put these guys out of business. The NRA is a huge organization. They're going to be able to offer, I would imagine it's going to be more affordable, so they're essentially running their own members out of business. And the NRA, not only are they certifying instructors now, but they're actually offering handgun instruction. They're coming up with their own set of classes. And again, so all those instructors that have been certified through their NRA that have their own businesses, maybe like me or anyone else, any other handgun instructor out there, are getting a little upset by this too, because they've paid their dues, they've paid their membership dues, and now the NRA is using their own money to put them out of business. Now, I understand this money is that they make from this supposedly is going to, fight for our rights and whatnot, but you can't tick off your members and put your members out of business at the same time. It's just, I don't know what everyone else thinks. I personally think it was a bad decision on the NRA's part, but we'll kind of see how it goes. But I don't know, just kind of an interesting situation that they got going on there.
Got about 20 minutes to go. We'll take a short break. We've got more coming up with Forrest Anderson and Todd Eccles. Todd from Patriot Defense, and Forrest is joining us from Washington Street Pond here in Twin Falls. We're about 20 minutes, as I say, away from the end of the program and still holding steady at 60. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Our studio guests join us on Friday mornings and we talk firearms. Wanted to point out Forrest Anderson is with us from Washington Street Pond in Twin Falls. Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, and we should actually ask you guys for contact information again. Todd, you've got classes coming up, so people who might be interested.
I do. I've got a class on July 29th. It's my enhanced concealed carry permit class. I've got plenty of room. You can call me or text me. My number is area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. You can find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. And on July 15th, I have my Handguns 101 class. It'll be on a Saturday morning. We start at 8 o'clock. It's going to be 4 hours long. We're going to work on learning the draw stroke and some other things. I had someone back out of that class. Now, last time I talked about this class, there was only 6 spots available. We just kind of want to get a feel for the class before we open it up to that, more people at one time. And it filled up. I announced it on the show, and I think I had that class filled up in like 3 hours. So I've had some people contact me about it, and I had to tell them it was full. So I'm just going to put out the announcement now that I've got one class or one spot open. If you want to get a hold of me, call me or text me. We can get you on that list right away.
Before we get to Forrest contact information, we've got a caller, and we'll take the caller on the air. Caller, you're up next at 944. Go ahead.
Getting back to safety, when hunting and taking a break, I always opened up the bolt of my rifle.
And you should. And whenever I go out and shoot my rifles, that's exactly what I do. I clear it, and you open that bolt on that rifle just to make sure it's clear. And then if you need to go down range and check the target, you call cold range, make sure everyone's aware of it, and you head down range. But you always leave those bolts open. I've known some people, if depending on the rifle, actually take the bolt clean out. With a handgun, same way. I take the magazine out, make sure it's unloaded, lock the slide back, make sure it's clear. In my classes, when you're done shooting the drill. That's the way you do it. You lock that slide back. You set it up so you see that it's empty, the magazine's out, that gun is clear.
I got to thank the caller, by the way, because he had dropped off a stack of range magazines for me the other day here at the studios, and I'm convinced now I've got to get my own subscription.
There you go.
Great afternoon reading when I leave the office. Forrest, your contact details.
Washington Street Pawn, 321 Washington Street. We're 3 blocks south of Addison on Washington Street. You can see us on Facebook at Washington Street Pawn. Phone number 208-735-0012. Call us or just stop in. We got all kinds of crazy stuff right now. I got a whole bunch of silver coins. If you're wanting to buy some silver, I just bought some 1-ounce rounds yesterday. So pretty cheap way to get into some silver. So
We were having an off-air conversation. We talk always during the breaks. Some of the most interesting stuff happens there on the program. You just don't hear it. But there's a law that was scheduled to take effect in California, I believe, tomorrow. A judge has stepped in. This one really baffles me. The voters in California, they had the voters, which shows you just how maybe bad things can be there. The voters voted on a measure that limits the size of magazines that you can own. And if you owned these, you would tomorrow suddenly be a criminal if you already owned them. And a judge has stepped in and said, it's not going to happen, at least not for now. It seems to me that they've gone a little overboard there.
Yeah, well, we'll see. If it's unconstitutional, then it should absolutely be voted down. They had limited magazines to 10-round magazines, which all of a sudden turned a whole bunch of law-abiding citizens into felons or into criminals. And that's what this judge kind of did. He says, look, you can't do this. You can't pass a law that takes people who've never committed a crime and all of a sudden makes them felons. So we're going to see how that deal works out.
Well, and an interesting part of the article I was reading, the part that I always like to see this, is a lot of those sheriffs and stuff are just saying, we're not going to, even if this goes through, I mean, we're not going to enforce it. We're not going to go door to door looking for these magazines. But, they put a stay on it, so we'll see what happens. And all of a sudden, there's not a whole bunch of criminals in California as of right now. So
not manufactured overnight. Yeah. We have a caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on KLIX. Go ahead. All right, I'll try the next line. Caller, you're on the air with Todd, Forrest, and Bill. Go ahead.
I'll make it real quick. I have some relatives in Illinois who are telling me that, they have some handguns, but, they have to be registered, and if they're not registered, it's a felony. And then I said, well, in Idaho, we don't, and there is no national registration law. Also, we've had the Heller decision, McDonald decision. Heller was in specifically the handgun. So I know that, I don't know if you guys are Second Amendment gurus, but that did not seem right to me. I thought a felony was a violation of the federal statutes, and federal meant all 50 states and territories.
You're exactly right on it. In fact, I was going to, after I said that, I was going to say that it would criminalize at the state level the owning of magazines. Now they can put fines, they can put jail time on that, but regardless, in the state of California, if they caught you with one of those and they prosecuted you, you would no longer, as a California resident, be able to buy a gun in California. Now, if you move to Idaho, I don't think that would carry over, but I don't know enough about that law to know.
I wanted to point out, New York City, when they passed a law that said you couldn't buy a 2-liter bottle of pop, people can still go in and buy 2 1-liter bottles. And so even if you're told your magazine can only hold 10 rounds, a lot of people can just simply buy more magazines. And I think that the thinking is, well, if they have to stop and pop another magazine in, that gives us time to rush them or do something along those lines, or they can't be as deadly. But, you can carry 2 pistols with you if you like. You can carry 2 rifles with you if you like. It doesn't, the mindset behind this, it can always be overcome, is what I'm saying.
Well, the guy they had in California had that shooting. He had a SIG 226,
yep.
And he had 40 10-round magazines loaded in his car. The other thing is, you can see this in the state of Illinois. Illinois has super strict gun laws. People are still getting shot every day.
Mm-hmm.
All they're doing is driving across the border and buying a gun somewhere else. So it comes down to prosecuting the individuals breaking the laws and making the penalty stiff enough that people think twice. Criminals don't abide by the law. The end. So if you're worried about someone a mass shooting and they're like, well, I'm only going to take a revolver because that's all the state legally allows me to have. That's not going to happen. They're
And
going to go somewhere and buy a gun that holds the most ammunition they can get.
well, you start, saying you can't have, any more than, high capacity magazines. You have to have 10-round magazines. So you're not only, we're going to stop the criminal from doing this, stop the criminal from doing that. Well, you're not only trying to hamstring the criminal, you're hamstringing the person who's trying to defend themselves. You're leaving them stuck with 10 rounds.
And that is the mentality that kills me. Punish
Don't punish
everyone
everybody.
because of rather than go after the few
Yeah.
and prosecute them and do what you need to do to get them off the streets. They just say, well, that's too much work. So we're just going to penalize everybody.
Yeah.
And that's where things need to
And the
change.
bad guys don't obey the law anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why
So
they're bad
this
guys.
new law is not going to
Yeah, they don't
make
they're
it.
not
They
gonna
don't
pay
care.
attention. Yeah.
Hey, on a lighter note, we've got about less than 10 minutes to go. So I've got to get my photograph taken for the enhanced carry permit. My M&P Smith & Wesson is a great range gun, as I've already figured it out over at Todd's. But I also believe it's going to be a good carry gun. All right, now I'm down the road going to move beyond that and say, I want to buy something that will just be fun to take out on the range. And what would I, in your own personal opinion, what would you get as a second firearm?
Something I want to shoot repeatedly over and over again, or something I just want to go bang bang. Oh, that hurts. Okay, I put that away. Put that back in the safe again.
Something that'll be fun.
If you guy really wanted to, and you like the style and you like the history behind it, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, get yourself a really nice 1911. Something you're going to enjoy. Something that's pretty to look at. Something that's smooth. Something that works really well. Spend a little money. If that's all you're going to do is shoot it at the range, do something like that. You can go to the store and $300, $400, $500. You can get any kind of combat concealed carry style handgun. There's tons of them. Spend a little money. Get something maybe you don't want to carry, just something you enjoy shooting. Maybe get a big revolver. I mean, I've had the crazy thought that not that I've ever carried it, but I've always thought maybe I get a big old 44 mag or something. Just something fun, right? Something you don't see every day. That's my mentality.
If you're going to get a gun, in my opinion, to go out to the range and shoot. I mean, there's some guns that I really like. If you buy a 1911, buy it 9mm. It's going to have way less recoil. It's going to have more mag capacity, and the ammo's cheaper, so you can afford to shoot more. There's two guns out there I really like. If you want to buy a handgun, there's zero thought. I mean, there's actually three. There's three guns. There's the new SIG 320. Has a better trigger than the Glock. It's striker fired. Very simple to use. Very ergonomic. Got a rail for a flashlight. That's a great gun. Another one, and these are all in about the same price point. The other one is the Glock 17 or 19. Stupid proof. I mean, they always work. I mean, if you buy a stock Glock and don't start changing it, it's always going to work. And you can beat the crap out of them, and they work and they're accurate. They're not very pretty to look at, but they work fabulous. And the Springfield XD. That's another one that if you go take a class somewhere and your gun breaks, they're probably going to hand you one of those. And the Smith & Wesson full-size M&P. So there would be four. Those are four guns. They're all striker fired. They're very simple to use. They're very comfortable to shoot. They usually have magazine capacities between 17 and 20 rounds. So you can go out and shoot and have a good time and be very accurate, and actually have fun putting rounds down the pipe.
I wanted to point out too that I've handled the Glock 19. I've seen the 17. I haven't picked it up yet. Now the 19, you're right. It's a very comfortable thing to hold.
Most popular gun out there about.
And it does. You're right. It doesn't look like much, but it's easy to and I think even for people with smaller hands, we're not going to mention the president, but even for people with smaller hands, I think that it would be a good range gun.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fabulous. As good as you can And they're designed by Germans. They're built in the USA, though. They have moved manufacturing facilities. You can either buy an Austrian-made one or a USA-made one. They're equal quality. Um, the Sig 320 is made in the USA. The Smith and Wesson M&P 9 is made in the USA. Springfield XD is made in Croatia, I believe. Um, but they're all great quality firearms. They all work. You know, I just talked to a friend who closed an embassy in the Middle East, and they weren't going to ship the ammo back. So they said, shoot up this ammo or bury it. He was repeatedly putting 5,000 rounds through his Glock, not cleaning it, and said it ran like a charm. Any of those guns will do that, though.
All the advice you've just gotten from Forrest is fantastic and it's spot on. But I really want to encourage you to go out and buy that 500 Smith so I can come over and shoot it with you. Get something I want to shoot, Bill.
You know, it's interesting. You mentioned the 1911. I get the daily emails from Tim Schmidt, and they're always giving away in a contest a 1911. Just about every day, which makes me wonder, maybe they're not quite as popular as they used to be if they're giving them away as promotional
Well,
items.
It's Tim Smith. That's the USCCA, right?
Yeah.
He's got to work hard now against the NRA.
Yes, yes. They've taken away his insurance business.
That's a great design. Designed in 1911, used in the military in World War I, used in almost every major conflict we've ever used. Some branch of the military has used. In fact, the Marine Corps just re-upped for a new one. But I will tell you, they look pretty. They shoot great. They're fun to shoot. They're slick.
And you know, when my buddies show up with their $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 Kimbers, I love to shoot them. I'm not going to go buy one, but I like to shoot them.
Hey, before we wrap up, contact information for us.
Washington Street Pawn, 321 Washington Street. We're 3 blocks south of Addison on Washington. Phone number 208-735-0012. You can find us on Facebook at Washington Street Pawn. Stop in, give us a call. Like I said, we got a bunch of laptops and a bunch of silver right now. So stop in and check it out.
Patriot Defense, you can find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. You can call me, you can text me, area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. I got a class coming up on July 29th, my permit class. Get a hold of me, I can get you in. I've got one opening for my Handguns 101 class on July 15th. I can get you in that if you let me know. Congratulations to everyone that drew out on the Fish and Game draw tags this year.
Someone's got 6 elk tags.
Yeah, nice. And I'll throw this out there. Obviously, from the sounds of it, I'm looking for a 500 Smith to shoot. So let me know if you got one. I'll come over and I'll break it in for you.
And just very quickly, if you hear something this weekend through the next several days that sounds not quite like firearms going off, it's probably somebody getting ready for the big day. It's Christmas in summer on Independence Day.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yep.
Want to thank you, too, for coming by. And God willing, and the creek don't rise, I'll be back here next Thursday between 8 and 10 o'clock. That's because I'm taking a few days off over that wonderful holiday weekend. Steve Millington will be here Monday and Wednesday. Rush Limbaugh's program is coming up next on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com.